The hardest workers I've ever met are almost never the richest people I know. And for years that made no sense to me until I found out why. There was a man who worked 18-hour days for 30 straight years. Never missed a shift, never took a real vacation. He believed, truly believed, that if he just pushed hard enough, long enough, the money would eventually catch up to the effort. It never did. And on the day he retired, he sat in his kitchen and asked himself one question he'd never let himself ask before. Where did it all go? By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why effort alone was never the thing that was supposed to make him, or you, rich. There's an invisible trap hiding inside hard work, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Stay with me, because I promise you this changes how you'll work for the rest of your life. Here's the first thing nobody tells you. Hard work was never the currency of wealth, leverage was. And those are not the same thing. Effort is what you trade for money when you have nothing else to trade. Leverage is what you build, so effort stops being the only thing you're trading. Be honest with yourself for a second. Are you someone who's working hard towards something? Or working hard to avoid sitting still with your own thoughts? Tell me which one in the comments. No judgment, I've been both. Let me tell you about Daniel. Not his real name, but his story is real, and I've watched some version of it play out in almost every hardworking person I've ever known. Daniel was 17 when he got his first job at a warehouse. His father had worked the same kind of job his whole life, and his father's father before him. In Daniel's family, there was an unspoken rule that ran deeper than any conversation. Good people work hard, and hard work is what makes a man worth something. Nobody ever said it out loud. They didn't have to. Daniel felt it every time his father came home exhausted and proud, collapsing into a chair with the quiet dignity of a man who had done his duty. So Daniel did the same. He showed up early, he stayed late, he said yes to every extra shift, every double, every "can you cover for me?" 20 years old, 25, 30, the years blurred into a single long shift that never quite ended, and it felt good in a strange way. Exhaustion felt like proof. If he was tired, it meant he had earned something. If he wasn't tired, some quiet voice in the back of his mind would whisper that he wasn't doing enough. That voice was the trap. Not the work itself, the belief underneath it. For years, Daniel measured his worth in hours logged, not value created. And here's the part that stings. The system around him rewarded that belief just enough to keep him inside it. A raise here, an Employee of the Month plaque there. Just enough validation to make the exhaustion feel meaningful. Never enough progress to make him question the math. Then, in his mid-40s, something happened that cracked the whole belief system open. A coworker, someone who, by Daniel's own account, barely worked as hard as I did, retired early. Not because he'd inherited money, not because he'd won anything. He'd spent 15 years building something on the side, something small and quiet that Daniel had barely noticed. He'd learned to make his money work instead of just his hands. A few smart investments, a small stake in a friend's business, skills he'd built once and then licensed out. Again and again, instead of trading his hours over and over for the same wage. Daniel remembers standing in the break room when he heard the news. Something in his chest went cold. Not jealousy or recognition, a slow, sick recognition that he had spent 30 years solving the wrong problem. This is the moment most people either wake up or double down on the wrong belief. Some people, hearing a story like Daniel's, decide the other man got lucky. That's easier to believe than the alternative. That the exhaustion Daniel wore like a badge of honor for 30 years was never actually required. Here's what Daniel didn't understand back then. What almost nobody tells you plainly. There are 3 subconscious shifts that separate people who stay effort rich from people who become wealth rich. And and none of them require working harder. The first is the time for money trap. As long as your income is directly tied to your hours, there is a hard ceiling on what you can ever earn. Because there are only so many hours in a day, and every one of them costs you something you can never get back. Daniel never once asked, "How do I decouple my income from my hours?" He only ever asked, "How do I work more hours?" Those are two completely different questions, and they lead to two completely different lives. The second is the identity ceiling. Somewhere inside Daniel, hard working had quietly become his entire identity. And identities protect themselves. If Daniel had built leverage instead of logging hours, some part of him would have had to admit that his father's way, the way he'd built his whole sense of worth around, wasn't actually the only way, or even the best way. That's a much harder thing to face than another double shift. The third is what I call an invisible permission script, a belief so deep you don't even experience it as a belief, you experience it as reality. For Daniel, that script was simple. People like us work for our money. We don't make money work for us. Nobody handed him that sentence directly. He absorbed it from every exhausted, proud evening his father spent in that chair. And a belief you absorb instead of choose is the hardest kind to ever question. Here's the deeper reveal, the part that recontextualizes everything. It was never really about working fewer hours. It was about who Daniel believed he was allowed to become. Leverage wasn't unavailable to him because of his job, his education, or his income. It was unavailable to him because some part of him had never been given permission to see himself as someone who built things, instead of someone who only endured them. That's the invisible trap. Not laziness on one side and hard work on the other. Two completely different subconscious operating systems. One that trades hours forever. One that eventually stops needing to. So, where did it all go? That question Daniel asked himself in his kitchen. It didn't go anywhere. It was never converted into anything that could outlive the hours he spent earning it. 30 years of effort, and almost none of it became leverage. If you've been feeling that same quiet exhaustion, busy, but never quite ahead, I want you to hear this clearly. The answer was never to work harder. It was to ask a different question than the one you've been asking your whole life. That shift, small as it sounds, is the entire difference between a life of effort and a life of freedom. If this reached you, don't just scroll past it. Subscribe and drop your answer to the question above in the comments. I read every single one. Never give up. Just make sure you're finally giving up the right things.